Look at this headline from the Wall Street Journal. Cities are starting to reverse defunding the police amid soaring crime. You think? In New York City, de Blasio said he would reinstate $92 million for a new police precinct after he had announced with great fanfare, my words, not the Wall Street Journal, but with great flourish, that they would be scrapping the project last summer. The mayor of Baltimore, who led efforts as a city councilman to defund the police, recently proposed a $27 million increase. After attacks on Asian Americans and a rise in homicides in Oakland, California, city lawmakers there restored $3.3 million of the $29 million in police cuts. The mayor is now proposing to increase the department's budget by $24 million. Even the mayor of Los Angeles has proposed an increase of $50 million. They're going in the opposite direction. You know why? Because defund the police is insanity, but the Democrats need to own it. And they will. A lot of good anecdotal stuff that's coming out. A little bit of little news here and there that ought to give you some cautious optimism. But never forget, as they try to mock you and me, as they try to make fun of us and ridicule us and despair, they're the fools. They're the fools. It looks like President Trump, again, being vindicated when he was trying to hold China responsible, because the left never holds China responsible for anything. Just ask, what's his name, John Cena. That guy, falling all over himself, groveling because he dared to call, I don't know, the country of Taiwan a country. But that ticks off the Chinese, his overlords, who pay him for his Fast and Furious movies, I guess. You got to have the movies do well in China. He doesn't want to tick off China any more than LeBron James wants to tick off China with his NBA product. So they bow down to China. Trump didn't bow down to China. And Trump said, hey, something, the lab, Wuhan, there's got to be some accountability. And all of a sudden, it looks like Trump is being vindicated. Listen to this and tell me who the real clowns are.
And, you know, Trump was blaming the Chinese from the beginning because he was using them as scapegoats. If it happens to be true that it comes from Wuhan, well, that was just a lucky break on his part because he took a guess, in my opinion.
Yeah, in your opinion. Well, in my opinion, Joy Behar is a total clown, a moron. That's an imbecile. On the left, one of the prominent voices of the left. Do you know that CNN's ratings are down nearly 70% since January? Their total viewership. Now, ratings, it's kind of a funny business. I mean, in our business, it can be all of it. TV, radio, up, down. But if I lost 70% of my audience since January, Phil Boyce would be calling me into his office. I'd have to be polishing up my, burger flipping skills. Because maybe it'd be time to look at another career. CNN, according to Nielsen, has lost nearly 70% of their total viewership since Biden took office. 67% of its total viewers have left since January. It's a huge, epic loss of audience. And it, to me, suggests that Americans are fed up. I mean, great article over at townhall.com by Matt Vespa. Do you remember the gunfire? Hey, Pabs, can you pull out the clip from the George Floyd Square where the reporter was trying to do a stand-up on the 1-year anniversary of George Floyd's death? George Floyd Square. You got to see George Floyd Square. You better bring some armed bodyguards with you to George Floyd Square. George Floyd Square in Minneapolis has become a bit of a horror show. Just ask the reporter who was standing there yesterday trying to do a stand-up in broad daylight on the 1-year anniversary of George Floyd's death when this happened.
This bill of comprehensive police reform to be Just got to be careful here with some gunshots. Excuse us, excuse us. It sounds like gunshots. I'll let you know what this is. These seem to be gunshots.
Now, they're cussing and screaming and running around. Although there was the one guy in the video, if you're watching the stream, there's one guy in a light blue shirt, just kind of got his arms folded and just kind of strolling around. I'm like, buddy, you better duck. Well, as Matt Vespa writes, and again, consider my mantra today, who are the real clowns? On the 1-year anniversary of the murder of George Floyd, the defund the police crowd saw the results of their policy play out as people gathering in the George Floyd Square autonomous zone were sent scrambling for cover when a gunman opened fire. And while CBS and NBC gave the shooting a combined 33 seconds of coverage, just 22 seconds on CBS, 11 seconds at NBC, ABC's World News Tonight with David Muir ignored it completely. They're frauds. They're liars and they're fools. How could you ignore 30 shots ringing out in broad daylight on the 1-year anniversary of the George Floyd death? Instead of reporting on the shooting in the Democratic city that's trying to dismantle their police department, ABC spent time focusing on the weather, the super flower blood moon, and touting the Manhattan District Attorney for putting together a grand jury to investigate the Trump Organization. They all gushed about that one. That was a big story yesterday, ABC, CBS, NBC. The 30 shots that rang out at George Floyd Square, not so much. Not so much. Meanwhile, Fox News Channel's special report with Brett Behar, that's how he kicked off his newscast. With the video clip that you just heard, Philip Crowther, the reporter, capturing the shooting as it happened. This is a disgusting example of the media corruption that we're up against. As Matt Vespa so brilliantly puts it, you see, if they don't report on it, then it never happened. That's not how this works. That's how Obama and Biden deal with issues, and look how it turns out. It's a disaster. Obama refused to call what the Russian annexation of Crimea, what it really was, an invasion. It was an uncontested arrival. And Biden is telling reporters what terms are not appropriate to describe illegal aliens in their reporting. Right, because that really solves the crisis he created. Ignore it and act like it never happened. You know what that is? Says Matt Vespa? That's mental illness. That is mental illness. This is a sickness. The left is sick, and they're trying to destroy America, and we ain't going to let them.